Oh, my name is Jerry and I am an alcoholic. Grateful to know that today. And I'm just real pleased to see all you smiley faces here today. That's encouraging. Um, I'd like to say that I'm glad that I didn't get any notice. I might have thought about this too much. So I'm going to speak to you from my heart because when it comes to Francine, um, she has a piece of my heart. I've known her since she came in the room, and I've watched the growth, and I've watched the laughter and the tears and the hopes and it's, the trip, the process. And it's amazing to watch the changes in people when you come in. It's hard to explain once you're around here and you watch people, the light comes on and the eyes get bright and the color in the face gets normal. And, and you just see people come back to life, and get a new one, and you see hope and people accepting help, and that takes time for some of us. And I've watched the many different little turns, and you know, I don't think I've seen a straight path in this program with anyone yet. I know mine hasn't been, and I am proud of her. I am so proud of you. I've watched the relationship between you, mother, and yourself grow, and it's beautiful. And I want to say that um, you have a lot to share because you have so much heart and you've worked very hard. And I've seen joy in you that I've been able to share. And that's what's nice is that we share this like today with other people so they know that you can do it too. And I would like to introduce Francine, my dear friend. I am so proud of.
Thanks, Jerry. What a beautiful introduction. What a great day to be able to share my sobriety with so many people. And thank you for showing up, and happy birthday to the people who have 30 days. And I remember when I had 30 days and that was such a long time, and happy birthday for 12 years. Well, thanks for letting me be here and thanks for letting me share today. I I don't like to plan what I'm going to share. Just praying about it this morning. One of the thoughts that came to mind is it was a beautiful Sunday morning, much like today. Um, the sun was shining and I had woken up on somebody's doorstep on a welcome mat across from the KC Hall where we used to hold the Sunday morning speakers meetings. And I had blood on my shirt and I had puke on my shoes, and the meeting was going to start soon. And I thought, I should go to this meeting. But I was ashamed because I had blood on my shirt and puke on my shoes. And I had just woken up on somebody's doormat. So I went home and I changed and I got cleaned up and I called members of the other program or this program and I said, I need help. Help came. They came and picked me up. They came to my house. They dumped the alcohol out. They said, we're here for you. You're worth my time. You're worth this program. The miracle is that we're here for you. So that's how I remember this Sunday morning speakers meeting. Now, a little bit of the backstory. I had spent 2.5 years in the program, going to meetings, didn't have a sponsor, hung out after the meetings with, coffee, but not really reaching out, not having that connection, not creating that connection with people because I was different. I was not a real alcoholic. I quit drinking because I had to. My mother said, well, you quit drinking or you have to move. Because she had just quit drinking and she was an alcoholic, let me tell you. She had the problem. And this woman right here is my mother, Janet, who came to speak to me today. And it's all her fault while I'm here in very many ways. This time, she had been gone for a little while. She had been working outside of Missoula. When she came back, I had two things. I said, I have two things to tell you. She said, what is that? I said, well, I went back out. The second thing is I'm really in the program now for good. And she said, how could you do this to me? And that, we were both young in sobriety, but she was the foundation, her, Jerry, a lot of those women, when I came back into the program, really surrounded me because I needed that connection and I started building that foundation and they helped me. They helped me so much build that foundation for AA. Come to my house, read the book, meet me at a meeting, stay away from bars, reminding me of where the slippery places are, who I was hanging out with, reminding me that I needed to change only one thing, and that was the way I lived, because that wasn't working for me. And they gave me solutions, suggestions and solutions. Was I smart and listened to them? No, not always. Because self-will tends to run riot, even in the program, because I didn't know how to live a different way. They showed me about the steps, they showed me about the book. But a lot of people in these rooms, sitting in these rooms, you're the people who showed me how to live in a new way to live. Because I came in here and I was, what did they call it? And I was a horse thief. I was drunken horse thief. And when I sobered up, that just left the horse thief. Changing my way of living. And so I got myself a gung-ho sponsor. Her name was Evelyn, and she was, about 5 feet tall, just powerful, powerful in the sense of that she had the spirituality to give, she had the time to give, and I was afraid of her. And, she said, go to a meeting. I was there. She said, come to my house. I was there. She said, read the book. And so that started my foundations, going to my sponsors every night, going to a meeting, taking the suggestions that were offered in the program. Because I really wanted to be sober at that time. And if somebody said to push a penny to low with my nose to stay sober, I probably would have done it, because I wanted to change my life so bad, because I didn't want to be that person that I had been. My drinking career in years started kind of before I was born. My mom and my dad went out right before I was born, and she had been drinking. So she went into labor early because there was a disagreement. And I was born drunk. And I think that was the start of my drinking career. The story was, I'd crawl around and drink from cans or bottles around the house. When I was 4, this was a sign of what my drinking career was going to be like as I got older, because they bought me a little 6-pack. They had those little cans back then, and we lived in San Francisco, and I had my own 6-pack too. We were drinking and driving. So there I was, sitting in the middle of two of the people who were drinking and driving, and I had my little beer. I guess we were going across the Gate Bridge. I don't remember because I was 4 and probably so drunk I was blacked out anyway. But I told my mother, pull over the goddamn car because I was gonna fight her. So I think they didn't give me any more alcohol until I was older. And then I was 7 and I was able to sneak it. So they would drink and I would pour myself a little glass and take it off somewhere from where, in my room. I had a little bit too much to drink. I was probably 7 years old and 60 pounds and was drinking Carlos Rossi, Red Chablis. And I got sick and I ended up in the hospital. And that was the first time I almost died from alcohol poisoning. I woke up in the ER with nurse shoving up clothes up my nose and down my throat. And I remember like, oh, you have 4 eyes. And I woke up in the morning with a massive hangover. And that was the first hangover that I ever had. But did it change the way I did anything? Well, for a little while, I stopped from the age of 7 until I was about 12. And then I was going into my teenage crazies and independent, and my family drank as well. So all during this time, I come from an alcoholic family. My family line of history, my mother's father had alcoholism. She had alcoholism. I think, my biological father had alcoholism. So for me, it was just something that I was born with, and I knew it from a very young age, but nothing had happened to me. I never, okay, that's a lie. Well, that's a lie. We moved up here in 1984 and I started school in, the fall of 1984, going on into 1985. New place, new area. I thought, oh, made some friends that maybe were a little sketch. I decided that I needed to be popular. So one day I stole a bunch of my grandmother's tranquilizers and took them and went to school, and I blacked out. And ever since then I was popular. Everybody knew my name and who I was because the cops had come, taken me to the principal's office, searched my locker for more drugs, and of course I, named names. So they went through another friend of mine locker too. So there was the set for the rest of my school year, because I was known as the class drunk and people who got, in trouble with drugs. So I was a great fine example of the other students of what not to be. Well, I continued that behavior for a little while until I joined the Army, and I was away for the for the first time. It's like, oh, this is a blast. You didn't have to be 21 to drink on base. So I was 19, away from home, started drinking, went through basic because there was no time in basic training to do anything. You learn what they told you to do. Maybe you had 2 or 3 hours of sleep and you functioned on whatever it was that, kept you going. Once I graduated from basic training was AIT, and they gave you lots of leeway. So I had lots of time to drink, and I had friends who loved to drink. And so I spent the next 6 or 8 weeks of school drinking. And that's all I did. And the military noticed. you know how bad of an alcoholic you have to be in order for them, the army to say, hey, we think you have a drinking problem. So they said either sober up or leave. And war broke out. And this was January of 1990. Oh boy, I just go home, you know. So alcoholism saved me from going overseas. Didn't stop my drinking career. I had come home and I was an adult. I'd been away for 6 months. Got some muscle, got some table muscle, and came home, worked, got a job, and drank for the next couple of years. Violence is a big part of my story. I think that also runs in my genes. My grandfather was violent, my mother was violent, I was violent, and the consequences for my drinking became more severe. And I didn't know who I was, and I didn't care to know who I was. And if I came to and something had happened, where I remembered being violent with either my partner or my family, it was just like, well, drink again so I could forget about it, drink again so I could face the day, drink again so I could face who I hurt. And then this miracle of all miracles happened. My mother went to AA because she couldn't live anymore, and she couldn't live drinking anymore. And I thought, oh boy, this is great. Got AA and I will be not drinking with her, so we won't have these clashes. I'll be drinking by myself, so we won't be able to fight. Well, then she said, you have to either quit drinking or move out. And I didn't have money to move out on my own. So I went to AA, and I call it osmosis. I sat myself in these rooms for 2.5 years. But you do that. You stay here long enough and you actually learn something. It's like when the old timers tell you, you go to a bar when you're sober and you sit there long enough, you're gonna, get a haircut. So that seeped into my blood somewhere and got into my brain. And so when I went back out, going back out is a part of my story. It was probably one of the best things that ever happened to me because I got to see myself as I really am, that alcoholic, and think to myself, oh my gosh, I know where the solution is. So my mom had shown me a new way to live by example and not, listening to what her plans were to do it. She stopped planning, she was not going to, I heard her say things like, I'm going to quit drinking tomorrow. I'm going to quit drinking here. I'm going to quit drinking there. But she stopped saying that and she actually quit drinking. It was 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, 30 days. And it was just amazing to see her change and grow and think, oh my gosh, what a fine example of what to be. And I wanted to follow her footsteps. So we've, her and I's journey together as alcoholics in recovery has been phenomenal because one, she shows me a new way of living. 2, we get to talk about the program. 3, You know, we get to repair all that stuff that happened when I was growing up. And that's what the promises are about in the program. You know, we are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness and a new way to live. And that's the beauty of this program. I I am so grateful every day to be awake and sober and, you know, have the next 24 hours ahead of me and have the tools at my disposal when I do make mistakes to say, hey, you know, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. You know, if I hurt somebody on purpose, or if I've even hurt somebody on accident, to take responsibility for myself instead of saying it was her fault or whoever's fault it is in front of me. Because the program has taught me how to take responsibility for my own actions. I'm one of those, you know, it talks about in there, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. I'm one of those slowly type of people. I learn very slowly. Starting recovery and being sober worked for a while, and then I got about 5 years sober, and I thought, oh, you know, I'm good. I'm good. And I started isolating in sobriety. I started getting away from the program, and I started not talking, and then I lost that connection with the program, but I stayed sober. You know, and they talk about that being like a dry drunk. So there was a lot of things that I did that I'm not proud of in the program of, you know, choosing different ways of living. But eventually the program came around again, and I started wanting that connection instead of isolating with myself, because, you know, I'm alone in my head. My sponsor used to say, get out of there, you're with a crazy person. And it's true. I don't know how you work, but I was like, oh, you know, things are going really great. Because I know where the solution is for just about everything. If things are going really hard, then I'm doing the steps, I'm praying, I'm kind of buckling down. But when things are going great and it's sunshiny out, that little voice in there says, oh, let's have a beer. I don't think, oh, where did that come from? Let's, um, you know, do something crazy. Now, I talk to my sponsor about it, or I talk to my mom about it, or you know, there's another alcoholic that just pops up, you know, in my place of business. And I was like, oh, a minute to be able to share where I am, how I am now. And that really gets me out of my head and be able to have that connection, not just in these rooms, but everywhere I go. Everywhere I go, there's people in the program. There's strangers who may come in who have that, you know, that secret code of wearing the little triangle, and you think, hey, are you a friend of Bill's? I am. Well, it's nice to meet you. So wherever I go in the world, AA is always there, and there's always that solution, no matter where I'm going. It's always there. Um, you know, and part of that in the promises, the new freedom and the new happiness. And we are not a glum lot. Today I get to do things that I was afraid of doing because I lived a lot of my fear of in AA as well as drinking. And you know, as I worked the steps and did my fourth, and it, you know, I'm working my steps, trying to do them all the time, and everything comes up, fear or joy, and I get to learn about new emotions. And some of those things still come up where it's, let me blame somebody else, or let me take responsibility. There's that voice in my head, you know, they call it the committee. I think they call it a couple of different things in a couple of different programs, but those still talk to me. And sometimes I have to physically say, shut up. You know, my coworkers think I'm kind of crazy, but that's okay. You know, at least today I can deal with things and work things out. And um, there's always that solution, and telling the alcoholic in my head, you know, be quiet, not today. And I've been sober for a little while, probably almost going on 30 years. 29 years, 28 and a half, it'll be 29 in July. Today, but the next 24 hours is all I have ahead of me. And I always have to remember that. And for this alcoholic, drinking is still an option for me because I never want to forget what it was like. Never, waking up on that doorstep and feeling that incomprehensible demoralization. And they said, when I came in, they said, while you're here sober, your disease is doing push-ups. And that's going to be a hard place if I go back. Today, right now, I don't have to go back there. And I'm frightened of what would happen if I do, take that first drink. And I always remember, I will always want to remember that that's there and have that respect for alcohol. Because even once in a while, even jokingly, sometimes my head works. I was waiting to get some to-go food at one of the places, and I think the Hayloft. And I was looking around, I was waiting there, and against the wall are all these, bottles of booze. I thought, oh yeah, I drank that, and all Black Velvet, green apple, something I'm never going to be able to drink. I'm never going to taste that. So the alcoholic in my head is, well, they have this little bottle. You could take it and swish it around, spit it out like mouthwash. No, we're not going to do that. Maybe tomorrow. So where I used to say I'm going to quit drinking tomorrow, if I want to drink today, I say tomorrow. If I still want to drink tomorrow, I'll drink tomorrow. And I love that I still have drunk dreams because it always is a good reminder of where I can go back to. I am not immune to my disease. Today, I have a spiritual program, and my recovery is contingent on that spiritual program. Today, I turn everything over, and I'm less apt to try to control things because when I try to control things, my disease likes to run its course. And, acceptance is the key, whether it's I'm an alcoholic or I can't control this or I'm a workaholic. I get to work the steps in all areas of my life, in all the daily, daily living, daily life, and all those emotions that come up, because some of the time I think, well, I could be, different, or with alcohol, because I was better looking, I was taller, I was, but now I get to be that sober and think of things that will better my life, and also be able to show other people what this program is like, walk the walk. And instead of talking the program, somebody would say, oh, look, what a good example to stay sober, even through the adversity that we've all been and had through life, to be able to say, today I have some tools to be able to work that program and to stay connected. And I love that AA does that, and many other things too, is, that connection, because when I isolate, I begin to be in my head, and that's dangerous for me. So I'm going to quit a little bit early because we all want to get to the football game. Because we need to cheer on our Grizz. And but I really want to, thank each and every one of you for being here and listening to me today, and for people to asking me to share my story. And I just want to say I love each and every one of you, and thank you so much for sharing my sobriety and for being here.